Welcome back to the Android community. Families, the Ivorian troops were seen causing problems in the Kampti region of Burkina Faso.
Il vient d'attraper notre chef du village. Voilà, quelques cargos. Ils ont descendu notre drapeau, et puis ils ont attaqué le drapeau.
So first of all, where is the Kampti region? Kampti region is located on the southwestern part of Burkina Faso. This is a border community that has over 2,000 Burkinabès. It's a region that is very rich in gold. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a border region where Burkina Faso has their border shared between Ghana and Ivory Coast. Unfortunately, some Ivorian forces were found causing chaos. So the question is, what did they do? These Ivorian forces came into Burkina Faso. They removed the flag of Burkina Faso and placed the Ivorian flag. That's an act of escalation, according to the critics. Ladies and gentlemen, they didn't stop at that. They tried to abduct one of the Burkinabè chiefs. And people have been saying this is an act of terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't know whose order they were carrying out. But just when they were about to carry the Burkinabè chief from this region of Kampti, the Burkinabè citizens came out to defend their chief. And ladies and gentlemen, probably the Ivorian soldiers, they chickened out and they left. Confrontation by civilians. And after the escalation right there, the information got to the Burkinabè authorities. And ladies and gentlemen, the next thing we saw was a deployment of the Burkinabè Territorial Defense Force.
Wow, Wah, kiba no, wasino pati hote. Kaba mengla film, na mengla film no. Na mengla film da. Wah, ya don't so. Na mengla so film da. Oh, ya don't so eh. Sabulu. Sabulu. Ladies and gentlemen, when this man came in, when you look at this video right here, you would definitely attest to the fact that these are not men that are coming to have a discussion, bilateral talk, or negotiate. Ladies and gentlemen, these guys were coming to dominate. And when you use the word domination in this context, a lot of people can, misconstrue what we meant, right? According to information, these Burkinabè forces, they ran through the entire territory that Burkina Faso was sharing with Ivory Coast. According to information, they were looking for the men that were trying to cause chaos. But unfortunately, they were not fortunate to find any of the, Ivorian soldiers that were causing commotion right there.
Nasa teng la wotone. Teng yela manti. Kina sura wa na ngumo fam neba bangne. Donc yaring la tun Burkina Faso me wana fam neba la kalam neba. Ti way tutuning fa managran bebe shanga ya tutuni fa managran bebe wala ade Burkina drapeau me la bezanda niamla wala Burkina drapeau la bezanda to no donc amnem shefa ya hungumna.
And according to the information we received, right now, Kampti is back in peace. Deployments have been installed in Kampti in case the Ivorian military, grow enough cojones to trouble the Burkinabè once more. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can give us your opinion on what you think about this. The critics are saying allegedly that this is an act of terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, is Ivory Coast a terrorist state? That's the question they are asking. Because that is an act of terrorism right there. Removing another person's flag and putting your country's flag. And you are the military of that country. And not only that, you were trying to abduct a Burkinabè chief. A man who doesn't function under your laws. Right? That is a complete act of terrorism. Extrajudicial abduction is an act of terrorism. That is what the critics are saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can give us your opinion on what you think in the comment section below. Now, according to the information we heard, the regional Burkinabè forces, they are now mobilized between the border of Diapaga and Benin Republic.
Voilà, les guerriers sont là. Les combats de Diapaga viennent d'arriver à Padangourma. Voilà, même là, les guerriers malga. Les guerriers, on est Ninia Barque. Oh, les guerriers, la patrouille, nous vaincrons. Voilà, les guerriers, on est Ninia Barque. On est Wawea, les guerriers, on est Ninia Barque. Même là, Enye Bamba Bari, Amenga Mimpiara Pokamba. No win. I am Menga Mimpiara Pokamba. Même là, la patrouille, nous vaincrons. Les guerriers. Ouais, la patrouille nous vaincrons. Bonne arrivée. Ayam là, la carbone de la auto. Maman d'Akengene, Pomba, Japarawa, mais les bombes à Parangourjela pour auto. Barca.
Keeping the territorial sovereignty of Burkina Faso. Fingers on the trigger. Probably if the jihadists try to come through the territory or any other type of destabilization force, they will be locked and ready to go. Mali soars in West African military ranking, according to reports based on rating of the Malian military. And in West Africa, Mali is now rated as the second to Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, let's listen to this report.
In a context of ongoing security challenges, the Sahel is emerging as a center of resilience and sovereignty. And a ranking established by the American firm Global Firepower provides proof of this. Based on more than 60 criteria, personnel, air capability, defense budget, and logistics, it ranks Mali 17th in Africa and 104th in the world. Mali has notably established itself as the leading military power in the West African Economic and Monetary Union, a position previously held by Côte d'Ivoire. In this region, the podium is completed by Niger in third place and Senegal in fourth, while Burkina Faso holds the fifth position. This rise symbolizes the growing strength of the AES nations in the face of both external and internal threats. And this progress is not a matter of chance. In response to the security challenges in the Sahel, Mali has strengthened its armed forces through targeted investments in counter-terrorism, training, and innovative strategic partnerships. Indeed, among these suppliers is Russia, a strategic partner, which provides helicopters, fighter jets, anti-aircraft systems, and munitions. But Bamako has managed to diversify its sources of supply. It has notably turned to Chinese suppliers for armored vehicles and heavy machine guns, as well as to Turkish suppliers, who are key partners in terms of drones and advanced technologies. And indeed, drones represent a particularly suitable solution for the FAMA, given the vast stretches of territory to cover, and they have delivered very good results, as was the case just a few days ago.
The General Staff of the Armed Forces reports that, as part of a reconnaissance and aerial surveillance mission over the territory on January 25, 2026, FAMA's aerial assets successfully engaged a base of armed terrorist groups in the Soussan forest.
Ranking second in West Africa after Nigeria, Mali thus asserts its leadership, contributing to the stabilization of the Sahel against external interference. But as its president says, this is a long-term effort because the fight is never over.
Waging an asymmetric war is a formidable challenge. But in the face of this imminent and growing threat, we have collectively chosen to rebuild our entire national defense apparatus. Substantial and measurable progress has been successfully achieved. Critical areas have been fully secured. The general freedom of movement for all citizens has greatly improved. And the sovereign authority of the state continues to be steadily and firmly restored across the land.
It is also worth noting the participation of Malian forces in the unified force of the Alliance of Sahel States, a symbol of the regional solidarity dynamic that promotes autonomous security tailored to its needs. This development strengthens the hope for a united and strong Sahel, capable of meeting its many challenges by its own means, a lesson in resilience for all of Africa.
So what does that tell you? A sovereign country in a revolution is developing at God's speed. There are claims too from this report that the Burkinabè military have improved, but they are placing them beneath the Ivorian ranking. But based on statistics and facts, based on what we can see on the line of contact, I think personally that the Burkinabés, they are even stronger than the Ivorian troops right now. Because it's not just you having capabilities. It's about if the capabilities have been tested. Have you been able to apply those capabilities? Have you been confronted in high-intensity warfare? Ladies and gentlemen, from the development we are beginning to see in the Alliance of Sahel States recently, you can actually, align with the narrative of the critic that there are some special forces operative of foreign states that have been training, the detractors that are trying to destabilize the Sahel States. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the information for Mali. You can give us your opinion in the comment section below on what you feel. According to information, the Malian armed forces visit the community of Mourdiah in Mali.
The General Staff of the Armed Forces informs national opinion that, as part of a reconnaissance mission conducted in the Mourdiah area on January 29, 2026, a meeting of fighters affiliated with armed terrorist groups, GAT, was detected in a makeshift hamlet located about 25 kilometers southeast of Mourdiah. Faced with this threat, an air vector was quickly engaged to treat the target. The strike allowed the neutralization of more than a dozen terrorists. The Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces reassures the population that the forces involved continue their surveillance and security missions to prevent any resurgence of the threat. United, we will win. Fama Bamako, January 30th, 2026.
The Malians, they negotiated a bilateral talk between the jihadists and their 72 virgin. According to further reports, the Malian authorities are now having a bilateral conversation with Guinea President Mamadi Doumbouya, to continue to strengthen bilateral relationship. Guinea is a very strategic partner to Mali when it comes to the, coastal corridor. And most of the Malian equipment come through the Guinea-Conakry port. So, ladies and gentlemen, Guinea is a very, very important player in the Malian revolution. A lot of people are saying that the Guinean cannot be trusted. But, ladies and gentlemen, based on stats and facts, Guinea has actually shown that when it comes to their economic interests, they are ready to play their part. Because at the end of the day, the Malians, they are not transporting their military capabilities to the Conakry port, for free. They are doing it with some levies that they pay. This is how a brotherly African states should apply when it comes to West African bilateral geopolitical and geostrategic relationship. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have another information. Now, the Malian authorities have actually transferred some offensive ISR capability to the region of Mopti.
A Friday unlike any other in the Malian city, the Minister of Defense and Veterans Affairs came to inject new energy into the leadership of those who stand as the region of Mopti's bulwark. Upon his arrival, Army Corps General Sadio Kamara visited the Sévaré Air Base, where he handed over the keys to Akenti-type drones.
The President of the Transition, Head of State, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Army General Assimi Goïta, has made the strengthening of the Malian Armed Forces, FAMA, a major focus of the state's action. Thanks to the support of the people and the commitment of our valiant soldiers, this strengthening is producing remarkable results every day. Coordination with our brothers from the Confederation of Sahel States, united within the unified force, is thwarting all the enemy's plans. A call to our misguided brothers. There is still time to return to the Republic.
General Sadio Kamara also met with the command of the Central Theater of the Bukeloko operation before meeting with the troops.
For some time now, the Malian army has been strengthened with a lot of equipment and a lot of training. We see real determination from the soldiers who are involved. And today, having the minister visit us puts us at ease and motivates us in carrying out the missions entrusted to us.
The mission ended on a note of brotherhood in arms gathered around a common table. General Kamara takes his leave of the troops who have been energized by this display of human closeness worthy of a Minister of Defense and Veterans Affairs.
Now, let me tell you a little bit about Mopti. Mopti is the most kinetic theater of operation in Mali. Now, Mopti has a large population. In fact, the major ethnic group in Mopti is the Fulani ethnic group. And based on reports, this is where the jihadists have attacked the most. And now the Malians have opened new capabilities in Mopti. Now they've had so many capabilities that they've been using, to make sure that they break the reserve and the resistance of these jihadists, right? Recently, the operations in Mopti has been, very, very successful. Now the Mopti people are saying that they are beginning to have a sort of data hotel in Mopti. But right now, the Malians are even bringing in new capability like the Bayraktar Akinci drone. We said earlier that Mali just, they just bought 6 new Bayraktar Akinci drone where we drop the receipts of the payment, right, on our platform. And now the Malians have received some of these capabilities and now they're transferring it to Mopti. I believe that the way the Malians are adapting to this warfare, I think the Alliance of Sahel States want to have independent capability in independent part of the country so that they don't need to reach out to the highest command control center before the military apply correspondingly. So if it's happening in Mopti, the required time for the air assets to deploy will be very, very short. And this will only bring about better result on the line of contact. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can give us your opinion on what you think about that. According to the information that we heard, the Nigerian authorities are now addressing the disinformation campaign that has been going on with some of the mainstream foreign media that have been saying different things that are not true about Niger. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the receipt.
These are indeed just rumors. I can confirm that there was never an attack in Samaka, as was claimed the day before yesterday on the airwaves of a certain radio station, which today I would say specializes in propaganda information. This attack never happened. So it really is informational propaganda. Sanguinary informational. As you know, the ministry is indeed at war. And this is proof, if any were needed, that even in terms of communication on the informational front, we are under attack. So this is clear, tangible proof. I would therefore like to reassure the public that there has never been an attack, with the reported toll of about 10 deaths. This is to say, once again, and also to draw the attention of the defense and security forces, as we do every day, so that vigilance is maintained at all our positions. I would also like to remind you that during his tour in November, the head of state also addressed this issue in the media sphere and the information war, which is being waged not only against Niger, but also against all the other AES countries. And so I would really like to take this opportunity to once again call for vigilance from the defense and security forces, and to ask the population to go about their daily activities as usual.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about this? In another report, the Nigerian citizens are saying that they are not only prepared for a short stroll, they are prepared for a long-time contest when it comes to the issue of their regional sovereignty. They are not ready or willing by any means to negotiate their sovereignty and their freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this video.
In 69, when Gaddafi took power, he drove out imperialism. From 69, they kept pursuing him. It took until 2011, so 50 years. So for Nigerians, Malians, and Burkinabès who think that in 2 years we will be done with imperialism, it means they haven't understood.
So there were so many, Nigerian that gave their opinion on how they feel based on the attack, the terrorist attack on the Diori-Amani air base. Now they're saying right there that if it took over 40 years for who to go after Muammar Gaddafi, that if you think that they are going to give up after 2 years, then you know what's up. And you know the role that Nicolas Sarkozy played in the destruction of Libya. So they are saying right now that, look, we are prepared for a long run. And ladies and gentlemen, the day of the attack on the Diori-Amani air base, there was another attack in another region of Niger. But we'll get to that information, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think about this information? What do you think about what that woman said right there? I think the Nigerians are more strapped in. I think their mental strength is even beyond what a lot of people expect. But ladies and gentlemen, more powers to the revolutionary regimes of the Alliance of Sahel State. Now, a South African artist, I just said, now it's time for Africans to begin to take over their movie narrative. According to her, she called it narrative sovereignty.
From my perspective, and as one of the owners and founders of Free Women Film, we believe, and I firmly believe, that film allows us to reclaim our narrative sovereignty. We talk about sovereignty as if it is only your economic assets, but film is a way in which you really own your narrative.
She called it movie sovereignty. She said sovereignty is not just you imposing your will over your territorial resource capability. She talked extensively about narrative sovereignty. So, ladies and gentlemen, from what I can understand from everything she said, she's talking about dominating and having more control over the African narrative. So, ladies and gentlemen, and the movie industry has a very, very important to play in that regards. But you can give us your opinion on what you think in the comment section below. Now, again, in another part of the information, Nigerians once again gave their take on Orano. According to this particular Nigerian, he said that Orano thought that Niger was going to be coming to beg them to come back to Niger. But unfortunately, the Russian partners came in, and not only are they nuclear capable, that they had enough capability to extract and process the uranium.
Today, if you were to multiply the impact of that, it is an exponential financial loss that Orano has been forced to endure because of this specific action. Now, another significant and pressing concern is that they see we are steadily advancing in the direction of partners against whom they are completely unable to defend themselves. For example, specifically, I'm referring to the fact that the call to Rayusi, who not only possesses nuclear weapons, but also has highly advanced technology in the field of exploitation. Because at first they thought we would just stay like that and cry, begging them to come back. But today they see that this is no longer the case. Instead, we've taken our destiny into our own hands as a result.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about that take right there? The Nigerian people, it seemed to me, those people are on the same page with their government. Another episode, let's go to Sudan. Al-Burhan, the leader of Sudan, has now welcomed back the citizens of Sudan to Khartoum. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch this video.
Sudan's Al-Burhan, hail citizen, returned to liberated Khartoum as defiance of skeptics and agents. The people and army of Sudan are united against the rebel RSF militia, Transitional Sovereignty Council Chairman Abdel Fattah al-Burhan said after performing Friday prayers in Al-Kalakla district south of the recaptured capital. Key statements from al-Burhan. The people's return to Khartoum is the clearest reply to those who claim the country is unsafe in order to obstruct citizens' return to their homes. The return of citizens is a voluntary choice and a personal desire for those who wish to rebuild their country. The people and the army are one hand in defeating the rebellion, and there will be no return for the beggars in foreign capitals. Our message to all citizens is not to be swayed by the talk of skeptics, opportunists, and agents who stand against the return of citizens. Former PM Abdallah Hamdok and his group will not set foot on Sudanese soil while they beg using the cause of the Sudanese people. Claims by ex-Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Khaled Omer Yusuf, that the army uses chemical weapons will find no listening ear among the Sudanese people because the people are the armed forces.
My opinion, there should be a cautionary tale for the Sudanese. From what you've seen during this war of aggression, this imposed aggression on your society, you definitely know who your brothers are. Not because of now you... My thing about Sudan is I'm still trying to understand. As Sudanese, have they come to accept that they are Africans, or are they Arabs like they continue to claim? I want to know that. I want to really know what the Sudanese think about themselves, because, at the end of the day, religion did not protect them in these contests that happened. But it's a very good development that civilians are now returning back to Khartoum. It's a sign that the Sudanese regime are beginning to impose their territorial will and sovereignty once again. So, long live the Sudanese forces and long live the Sudanese people. We pray for peace in Sudan, ladies and gentlemen, for the ones that have actually, paid the ultimate price during this conflict. Our sincere condolence to the people. A Nigerian geostrategic political analyst has given his take on the US-Nigerian security and economic partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, let's listen to what he has to say.
Washington seeks to keep African countries in military dependence. Analyst says the U.S. wants to maintain its influence in West Africa. Geostrategist Charlie Kengne told Sputnik Africa, following the announcement of American arms deliveries to Nigeria, they want to preserve a certain dependence of African forces on American expertise as well as on American armaments. Washington also aims to counter Russian and Chinese competition, while Nigeria remains one of its oil suppliers and benefits from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, the expert recalled. The same assessment was shared by Armel Sango, an expert on integration and development issues who believes the fight against terrorism is not the sole American motivation. There is a growing rise of actors working toward de-dollarization. There is also this desire to steer the extraction, exploitation, and commercialization of oil. We have seen how they intervened in Venezuela and in other oil-producing countries, he explained to Sputnik Africa.
The African Union has now condemned the attack on the Diori International Air Base in Niger. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the report.
The chairperson of the African Union Commission condemns the terrorist attacks in Niger and reaffirms the African Union's solidarity. The chairperson of the African Union Commission, H.E. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, has learned with deep concern of the attack carried out against the Hamani Diori International Airport in Niamey during the night of 28th to 29th January 2026 by armed individuals. He has also learned with profound sadness of the deadly attack perpetrated on Sunday, January 18, 2026, in the village of Bosi, in western Niger, which claimed the lives of around 30 innocent civilians. In this regard, the chairperson of the commission condemns in the strongest terms these heinous acts, which form part of the campaign of terror conducted by violent extremist groups deliberately targeting civilian populations and public infrastructure. He commends the swift and effective response of the Nigerian security forces, which made it possible to contain the attack on the airport. The chairperson of the commission expresses the solidarity and compassion of the African Union with the people of Niger and extends his sincere condolences to the families of the victims, as well as to the government of the Republic of Niger. He further acknowledges the efforts undertaken by the Nigerian authorities in the fight against violent extremism and terrorism, particularly through operations conducted by the Nigerian armed forces. In this regard, he takes note of the significant results achieved during the recent large-scale operation in the Tillabéri region, which led to the neutralization of several armed elements, the disruption of terrorist groups, and the recovery of property previously looted from local populations. The chairperson of the commission reaffirms that terrorism and violent extremism constitute a serious threat to peace, stability, and the territorial integrity of the affected states. He finally reiterates the full readiness of the African Union Commission to continue supporting the efforts of the Nigerian authorities in close coordination with states of the region and relevant partners in order to strengthen the fight against this common threat, protect civilian populations, and safeguard the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states.
You can kindly give us your take on what you think about this information based on what the African Union has actually said, based on the terrorist attack that happened at the Diarrhea International Airport. Now, finally, the Ivorian authorities have now summoned the ambassador of Niger in Ivory Coast. According to the information they gave, they said they have now filed a complaint. Now, through her to pass the complaint down to the authorities of the Niger, according to them, the proclamation of General Abdurrahmani Tiani, based on what he said about the terrorist attack, they said it's unacceptable and it's undiplomatic. Families, let's listen to this comment right here.
The Ministry of State, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation informs that this Friday, January 30th, 2026, Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Republic of Niger in Abidjan, was summoned to the office of the Minister of State. This summons follows the serious remarks made recently by the highest Nigerian authorities to His Excellency, Mr. Alassane Ouattara, President of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire. During this interview, the Ivorian government expressed its strong indignation and condemned with the greatest firmness these statements, which not only contravene diplomatic customs, but also seriously harm the honor and dignity of the head of state, as well as the Ivorian people. Côte d'Ivoire, faithful to its tradition of dialogue and peace, has always worked to maintain relations of friendship and brotherhood with the countries of the sub-region. However, it cannot tolerate the fact that the Ivorian institutions are the subject of actions that seriously jeopardize the quality of our bilateral relations. A formal protest note was given to the ambassador for transmission to his high authorities. The Ivorian government remains attentive to the follow-up that will be given to this approach and reserves the right to draw all the necessary consequences. Attack on Niamey Airport. Revelations about the assault and heightened diplomatic tensions. The attack was reportedly claimed by the Islamic State in the Sahel, following remarks by the Nigerian leader accusing Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, and France of being the sponsors of the assailants. Ivorian authorities summoned the Nigerian ambassador to Abidjan. These statements by Tiani were deemed contrary to diplomatic norms and damaging to the honor and dignity of the Ivorian head of state. Benin, through a government spokesperson, also reacted, stating that these allegations lacked credibility. The U.S. State Department ordered the immediate departure of non-essential embassy personnel and their families from Niger due to security risks. Nigerian human rights group CODDAE described the attack as cowardly and irresponsible, harming the territorial integrity of Niger and that of the AES, according to the state news agency ANP. A collective prayer was held on Friday at the Grand Mosque of Tahua to implore God for peace, security, and the protection of the defense and security forces across various theaters of operations, according to ANP, a terrorist organization banned in Russia and many other countries.
So at the end of the day, I'm still going to say once again, what do you think? We are going to have a deep dive and a very, very thorough scrutiny of this entire analysis in our next session. So families, don't forget, stay tuned. When we do our next live, I will be giving my, my total opinion on this entire analysis. If we've given you any type of value, kindly do well to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Until the next episode, I'll see you again.